So on this episode of Welcome to the Sun, we are going to be looking at the legal side of buying a property. So it's not the most exciting side, but it's probably the most important.
It is. It's it is a bit of a dry subject, but it's necessary. We have to have it. We wouldn't dream of considering buying a property in our own country without legal representation. This will probably be for most people, if not the most expensive thing they ever buy, certainly the second most expensive thing they ever buy. So you have to take professional advice.
And what are the things that you think people should start getting themselves prepared for right now?
Yeah, so in Spain at the moment, the property market is so hot. We see a lot of clients where there's maybe a reticence to get their team put together prior to finding a property. So a lot of people say, well, I'll maybe put my team together once I've found the property. We would much prefer a better practice than that. Put your team together before you found that property, because if you've got your lawyer on board already, they can be doing things like reviewing reservation contracts for you. They can be putting your NIE numbers in place. An NIE number is something you need to purchase a property. Because of the competition and there's a lot of people viewing the same property, we often find ourselves in a position where we might have 2 or 3 offers on the same property. The first question we get from a vendor is how quickly can that person complete? If they need to do everything, like a power of attorney, like get an NIE number, they hear delay, and the person who's actually got everything in place might have the winning bid on that property.
You're only a stone's throw away from your office to this particular solicitors. Is this your solicitor of choice, or do you work with a number of solicitors?
Well, we work with a number of solicitors. We have to be impartial. We are impartial. So depending on client's location, we sell properties up and down Costa Blanca. We would always recommend that somebody has a solicitor representing them in the area that they're deciding to buy in. So depending where you're buying in the Costa Blanca, we would have a panel of solicitors in each area that you can choose from.
Okay, well, we're going to meet Vicente, who is one of the top solicitors around. So I'll tell you what, let's go and ask him some questions and find out a little bit more about this.
Perfect.
We're going to talk all about the legal process of buying in Spain. So I've got expert with me, Vicente.
Yes.
Thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much to you.
And I'm just going to fire some questions at you about the buying process from the legal point of view. So a lot of people are asking, once a buyer has made an offer and the offer is accepted, what is the process? What happens straight after that?
Okay, usually what we recommend to do is that as soon as an offer is accepted is really to get all the legal information, all the legal documents. What we usually do as well is that we contact the estate agency, we contact the lawyer of the vendor, and we try to get all the legal documents. I mean, for instance, title deeds, certificates, any kind of information for the property, in order to prepare the contract, in order to prepare the purchase contract. So really the first thing that I recommend is to speak with your lawyer and get all that info.
Is this something that customers, they need to have a solicitor, or can they do it themselves?
We strongly recommend to have a solicitor and to appoint a solicitor in Spain. In Spain there is only one category, that is abogado, but it has to be a registered abogado or lawyer in Spain. Why? Because that lawyer is going to work for you and is going to check everything for you. Exactly the same like in the UK. It's going to do the due diligence, it's going to do all the process of the conveyancing, it's going to guide you and advise you in all the process of buying the property, and also will do the process of the after sale. So we strongly recommend you to do it. If people decide not to do it, the thing is that maybe there would be any troubles, and also the barrier of the language, and also because the thing is that always you need to be assisted by a professional, which we recommend that has to be a lawyer.
In the UK, like, the conveyancing process can take a long time. How long do you estimate, or roughly, the process takes in Spain?
I mean, it takes less than really in the UK. I mean, usually it can take more or less a month and a half, 2 months if it's a urban property. If for any reason or if somebody decides to buy a property in the countryside, it could take a bit longer, maybe 3 months, but on average a month, 2 months. So really it's really quick. And even we have had cases that if somebody wants to do a straight purchase, it can be done in some weeks. So it's possible.
Wow, okay, that is really quick actually. So I want to move on to talk about power of attorney, the power of attorney document. Why is that so important?
That document is so important because it allows people to to relax and to leave all the tasks and all the job to a lawyer. The lawyer can do everything for the client, not only the due diligence, not only also in that case the searches on the property. Also, a lawyer can apply for the tax number, that is the NI number, can open a bank account, can complete on behalf of the client, and also can do all the process of the after sale without the client being here in Spain. So it's also I really advise people to grant a power of attorney, but of course it's up to the client to decide what to do.
It sounds like a smart move, actually. But you mentioned just then the NIE number. Can you tell us a bit more about that, and also about how somebody would give their bank details to you?
The NIE number is the tax number for foreign people. Really is used overall or mainly for that purpose. Really is a number that will be used also for any other task. For instance, it will be used to contract the water supply, the electricity supply, even if you need an insurance, or even if in the future you want to apply for the visa or residence card. So that number is the number assigned to a foreign person to really be identified in Spain, like an Spaniard has an ID card.
Okay, and the reservation contract, can you talk us a little bit through this, and also through the initial 10% payments, and then possibly the payment structure?
The reservation contract is the standard contract that is signed usually with an estate agency, really to keep the property and to remove that property from the market. So in that case is when you decide to buy that one, and in the meantime we as lawyers, we prepare the purchase contract. So this is the preparation contract, and the contract which includes the initial conditions. That's a good contract to sign, because in that case you know the property you're about to buy, the seller also commit to sell to the buyer, and then we can prepare all the other stuff. The 10% usually is paid when the purchase contract is signed. So reservation contract usually is a deposit of 3, 5, 10,000 euros depending on the price of the property, and when the purchase contract is signed usually is paid the other 10% of the property. Then the last payment on completion. Usually is done in resale. That's important to mention, because in a new brand property the way or the structure of payments are totally different, and it depends really on the agreement with the builder.
Okay, yeah. And in terms of the checks on the property, what specific checks do you do, and are they covered in the upfront fee, solicitor's fee?
What the standard searches are, we have to approach to the land registry to check that the property is a freehold property, that it has no debts, no encumbrances. Also, we do the searches in the town hall to check that the property is legal, that it has no illegal constructions or building, or if there is an extension really to apply for the license or to the permits to amend the deeds. Also, what we do is that we approach as well to the council to see that there is no debts in the taxes. And the last one is with utilities. What we do with utilities is that we check that there are no pending payments on any utilities like water, electricity, or even community of owners. That's the standard checks. Apart from that, we usually recommend to do a survey. Why I mention that? Because in Spain a survey is not compulsory like any other countries, but it's strongly recommended to do it in a resale property, in a second.
Even for a new build, would you still recommend?
For a new property, it depends on the client. It's not really totally advisable, but sometimes there are clients that they want us to check how is the situation. For instance, in our law firm, we have 2 in-house architects that they do this in survey or a structure report just to check that everything is correct. But usually in a new property, it's not necessary. In a resale, maybe it's more advisable to do it.
Okay. Can you tell us about debts on the property, and how you would make sure that there's no debts on the property for a potential buyer?
In that case, what we'll do is that we'll apply for all the certificates, for all the information and statement for the entities that I have just mentioned, town hall, water utility companies, the council, the land registry. And in that case, we'll get all that information about debts. If there is any debt, what we do is that we cancel those debts before completion or on completion, which means that at the moment that we have to release the payment, the main payment, we will offset, we will deduct that amount of money of the debts to be cancelled on completion, simultaneously at the time that somebody signed the title deeds.
Okay, yeah, I think you answered my next question there, actually. But when you've actually acquired the property, what's the rules around subletting? Would I be able to rent out the property?
Yes, everybody in Spain is allowed to and is authorized to sublet their own property. What happens is that depending on the length of the time of the rental accommodation, maybe somebody will need a license. Why I say that? For instance, for long-term properties or for long-term rentals, it's not necessary any license or any authorization or permission at all. For a seasonal one, exactly the same. I mean, 3 months, 4 months, summertime is not necessary. However, if it's just for tourist purposes, for instance, for a week, 2 days, maximum 2 months, is compulsory really a tourist license. Depending on where is located the property, the requirements are totally different because each region, each community in Spain has their own rules. So only in short terms is when people will have to apply for a tourist license.
Okay, thank you. And just one very important question. People will be asking about the actual buying costs. Are there any hidden costs? How much does it cost in general?
In general, okay. Yeah. In that case, we have to differ from a brand new property and a resale. And also we have to differ from, or we have to know exactly where is located the property. Why I say that? Because a new property, always you have to pay 10% VAT plus stamp duty. And the stamp duty differs from each region from 1 till 2%. So it's very similar really in a new property. But in a resale, the tax will go from 6% till 10%. So, which is really a big difference. It's a big gap. For instance, here in the Valencian community is 10%. In Murcia is 8%. In Andalusia is 7%. So these are really the taxes that you have to pay. On top of that, always will be necessary to face some other expenses like notary fees, land registry fees, lawyer fees, which in total could be maximum 3,500, 4,000 euros, depending always on the price of the property. Why? Because if the property, for instance, is value 500,000 euros, maybe this associated cost will be higher. Maybe it will be 5,000 or even 6,000 euros. Always we ask the client just to ask for a budget and they can have a breakdown of all the costs before even they complete, and they can know exactly how much they will need to buy the property and to afford to buy the property.
Okay, thank you. Can we talk a little bit about the Spanish will system? So somebody moving here, let's say they're moving to locate here for good, or even if they're here half of the year, how does it work in terms of, do they need a Spanish will?
I mean, it's not necessary. I mean, UK will is done in the UK. However, always we recommend to have a Spanish will. Why? Because having that will, you avoid any probates, you avoid any process in the UK. And really in Spain, a will is not expensive. More or less, the cost for the notary and our cost for the translation and preparing the will could be in total 250 euros per person. With this amount of money, you avoid any hassle in the future for the inheritors. But if there is no Spanish will, of course, it could be valid the will done in another country.
And could you tell us a little bit about the process of moving to Spain since Brexit? Obviously, the UK people in England are no longer part of the EU. So, as a non-EU resident, could you explain the visa situation for us, please, and how that affects legalities here?
I mean, in principle, there is a law, and there is a law and a rule that is the rule of 90 days out of 180 days, which means that from the day one that somebody from UK enter into the Schengen area, Spain, for instance, that day start counting that period of 180 days. In that period, you can be 90 days. You can combine, you can decide how to enjoy or distribute those days, but you can not spend more than 90 days out of 180. The only way to avoid that rule is to apply for a visa, and there are many types of visa. The only thing is that the more popular visa we can consider that is the non-lucrative visa, the digital nomad visa, and the golden visa. The non-lucrative visa is the one which is known as the retirement visa. Why? Because usually it's for people who are not going to work in Spain. That visa is granted for people who meet some requirements, for instance, financial means, any other documents, private insurance. Maybe we could speak about another chapter about it because it's a long process. And there is another option, for instance, is the digital nomad visa. The digital nomad visa is for people who want to work abroad, remotely. So that's a very popular option now for people who want to move here to Spain, work in Spain, but for a company or for companies who are located outside of Spain, except a small percentage if it's a self-employed. And the golden ticket is the golden visa. Why? Because that visa allow people and the family to work, live in Spain or not. They can decide what to do. They can avoid any kind of rule. They can do whatever. They can stay here, stay in the UK, whatever. And also the good thing is that they have not to become tax resident in Spain if they don't want to do it. Why I mention about the tax residency? Because it's a different concept. To be tax resident in Spain, you need to spend in Spain at least 6 months a year. which means that if somebody spends more than 183 days in Spain, you become tax resident, which automatically convert that person that person has to submit a tax statement here in Spain, and that person will stop submitting any tax statement in another country. So when somebody wants to apply for a visa, it's important to speak with the lawyer, with the tax advisor, to do a tax planning for the future, and also always we consider that timing is important and planning is important, because the consequences of moving to Spain maybe could be something that anybody doesn't know about it, and later at the end you have to pay, for instance, if you sell your property in the UK, you have to pay capital gain tax in Spain or any other tax. So these visas are important, but are linked really to the concept of being tax resident in Spain.
Okay, and is there a time of year, or is there a way to move to Spain to be more efficient tax-wise?
Correct, there is a way. For instance, anybody who moves from the 1st of July, really that person will not spend more than 6 months a year in Spain, which makes that first year that person or that couple or that family move to Spain are not tax residents. So really, if I would have to recommend to somebody who want to move to Spain and avoid taxes, if they have to pay any, it will have to be from the 1st of July. But in any case, always it's better to speak with the client to do a business plan, or to do a tax plan, do a simulation to know exactly their movement, how they are going to be relocated, and the consequences of it.
Well, I thank you for the very detailed explanations there. I think if anybody wants any further information, please look in the links below this video, and there will be links to all the information, including links to the various different visas. Is there anything you would like to add yourself finally for any potential buyers?
I mean, in that case, what always we recommend is that speak with your lawyer, speak with the estate agency before you decide to move, and have everything ready. And if for any reason it's not ready, the moment that you decide which property you commit to buy is when all the process has to be started. So really, I mean, as we have summarized all the situation and all the process, I think it's always to have the correct choice and the correct people with you to really work for you.
Vincente, thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Thanks to you.